what's up, and welcome into our downtown Phoenix studios for the first episode of Cronkite Sports Live. Alongside Braden Bell, I'm Chaz Frazier, and thanks for joining us.
And Chaz, I gotta say it right off the bat, man, you look good. You got the lapel pin, the pink with the blue, it all just ties in. I'm very impressed.
Man, look at you. Look at the patterns, the pocket square, the white shirt and the tie. Man, can you let me in your closet?
Oh, come on in anytime, man, but you know what they say. You look good, you feel good, and you anchor well if you do all that. Let's see what you got, Chaz.
It's the offseason, but ASU football is still making headlines. We've talked about it, and we'll continue to talk about it. ASU's defense. Whether injuries, the large amount of blown coverages, or missed tackles are to blame, the D looked atrocious at times. It's evident the Sun Devils, who allowed 357 passing yards per game, which was the worst in the nation by over 20 points, has some bleeding to clean up. Well, last week ASU brought in Phil Bennett as the defensive coordinator. Bennett brings 40 years of coaching experience to the table and has helped develop 54 different players go to the NFL. Bennett's most recent gig was the defensive coordinator at Baylor. He also served as a coordinator at TCU, Texas A&M, and LSU. I'm sure Sun Devil Nation is excited and ready for the fresh start. They'll have to wait until the fall to see how it all unfolds.
All right, thank you, Chaz. Now from the football team over to one of the most successful programs on campus over the past couple of years. That's the women's basketball team. I'm joined by WCSN analyst Rob Warner. Rob, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me on.
All right, first up, last week the ASU women dropped a tough game against number 8 Washington, 65-54. What went wrong for the Sun Devils in that matchup?
Well, I think that was a tough matchup for the Sun Devils going into the game. Washington was ranked number 8 in the country coming into that game and had the Pac-12 all-time leading scorer in Kelsey Plum. I think that was a tough matchup for that reason, and you had a freshman guard with Riley Richardson guarding her. She got hurt in the second half, and that really affected the game, I thought. After Richardson went down, the Huskies went on a 17-6 run to end the game. Washington pulled away in the end and won at 65-54. I just think that the offense of the Sun Devils couldn't really keep up in the second half.
And you mentioned Plum. She's one of those players you just hope to contain because nobody seems to know how to stop her. But now looking forward, this week, the Devils will travel up to the Bay Area to take on Stanford and Cal, two very good programs. What kind of challenges will they present?
Well, I think against teams like that, the challenge really is going into a hostile environment as a young team. You know, it's tough going into Haas Pavilion at Cal, Maples Pavilion at Stanford. Those are two good programs, with Stanford being a perennial powerhouse program. I think if ASU can hold their composure and the young guns can play their best, I think they'll have a chance.
And a young team, but they're currently sitting 4th right now in the Pac-12 standings. They were co-champions last year. Do you think this team can elevate their standing at all before the end of the year?
I do think they'll elevate their standing. I think it's going to come down to really the offensive end of the court. I think it's going to be about I think it's an easy thing to say that Sophie Bruner and Quinn Dornsider need to play better, but those really are the anchors of the team. I think it's going to come from the young guards of this team. Kiara Russell, Riley Richardson, Sabrina Haynes. I think those players really need to step up. Richardson's probably having the best year out of those, but I think the offense really needs to step up because the defense is there. You saw it in Washington. I think if the offense can step up, those guards can play well, ASU will get better and better.
Great stuff as always. Thank you, Rob. Now over to Chaz.
Thanks, Braden. We welcome in Paige Burnell. She's been on the beat and covering the ASU swimming team all season long. November 19th, that's the last time the swim team was in any real competition. What's training been like? What's been up with them?
So winter training so far has been really intense. This is the time of year that Bob Bowman cranks up the heat, really gets his team in shape. It's so important to do this right now because if they iron out the kinks right now, really work hard, they can focus on the small details later on in the second half of the season. And what sets ASU apart from other teams is that they have not tapered yet. So like Coach Kessler said, they have a lot of money in the bank. Those times are really going to start to drop coming up here.
Stanford, Cal, they're both coming to town this week. What do you think the results are going to look like when it's all said and done? ASU
might be the most improved, but they have some formidable opponents this week. Cal is ranked 2nd and Stanford is ranked 1st. So ASU, it's going to be a difficult meet, but that's not the point. The whole goal for ASU is to get a sense of where they're at and to make the right adjustments so they can do well in the postseason. I spoke with Christian Lorenz, and he's still mad at the fact that they only scored 1 point in the NCAA tournament last year. He knows, the team knows, they are not a one-point team. So that's what the ultimate goal is there.
It's the second half of the season. Who are going to be some of the impact players that will take this team to the promised land?
The big players are going to remain the big players. The relay team consisting of Richard Boas, Cameron Craig, Christian Lorenz, and Andrew Porter beat the ASU school record for the 400 medley relay with a time of 3.13. That's really good, but they could even go down from that. And you can't forget about the ladies. Chloe Isleta, she's been doing so well in the 200 IM. And of course, always a stellar performance out of co-captain Alicia Bush. She's always killing it with the 50 and the 100 freestyles.
Once again, Paige Burnell, great stuff as always. You can catch all her work on cronkitesports.com. Now we're going to toss it over to Evan Milstein for this week's Impact segment to get us caught up with everything that's going on in the Pac-12.
Thanks, guys. Today's Impact is focused on the Pac-12 women's basketball. Pac-12 Conference currently holds 5 of the country's top teams, with Washington in the top seed, followed by Oregon State, Stanford, Arizona State, and UCLA, also representing the Conference of Champions in rankings. Washington, 8th in the nation, has 11 games left on their slate and just picked up a huge road win at Arizona State on Sunday. The Huskies now set the pace down the stretch for the Pac-12, led by the nation's leading scorer Kelsey Plum, who's averaging 31 points per game. Washington not only has the nation's leading scorer, but also the leading rebounder. Chantel Otsahor grabs 13.5 rebounds per game and grabbed 30 rebounds in her last outing against ASU. The Huskies are no strangers to scoring, recording just over 88 points a game, but marks them down for 4th in the country. Washington is coming off their first road sweep of Arizona schools in the last 4 years and brings their conference-leading momentum to Washington State on January 22nd for a rivalry game on the road. For Washington State, a loss could drop them towards the bottom of the standings, but for Washington, a win could give them the momentum to stay in the top of the conference, with Stanford and Oregon State right on their tails. Washington is certainly a team to keep an eye on in the conference. Braden, Chaz, back to you.
Thanks, Evan. We finally made it to our favorite part of the show. We're going to tell it just the way it is, a rapid-fire segment. Braden will ask a couple questions. I'll do the same. Then our producer, Nick, will choose a winner. We talked about ASU football at the top of the show. Give us a rank 1 through 10 of the pickup of Phil Bennett.
I'm going to go with a 7. And I know that may seem a bit harsh. It's kind of an average score, but the defense was far below average last year, so I think it's actually pretty kind. I think the hire of Phil Bennett, though, is good for a couple aspects. He isn't from the Todd Graham coaching tree, which means it's some fresh eyes in there. He could notice some of the mistakes they might have made last year and switch those up. And then, honestly, a lot of experience, like you touched on. Very experienced coach, all those years coaching. He'll be good.
That sounds great.
Now we're going to send it over to you, Chaz, and I have a tough question for you. The ASU men's basketball team over in Southern California this weekend against 2 very good teams, USC and UCLA. Can the Devils pull off a win?
If there's going to be a win, I think it's going to come against USC. They're going to go against Jordan McCaughlin and the boys. I think they're going to have to get hot from 3, but the second game against UCLA, Bryce Alford, Lonzo Ball, TJ Leaf, that's all I have to say. I think if they win, something miraculous is going to have to happen.
That UCLA team's like an all-star team pretty much. They're unreal.
They are. ASU baseball is just 1 month away. Tell me, Brady, can this team be as exciting as Tracy Smith's Twitter game?
To put it frankly, no, but I don't think any team can be as exciting as Tracy Smith's Twitter game. He's fantastic. But I do think this team's going to be pretty good. Coming in with the #1 overall recruiting class from last season, they're a young squad. They may start off slowly, but as the season progresses, look for them to peak at the right time, and they should have no problem making the NCAA tournament. And then last up, Chaz, I'm putting you right on the spot. Super Bowl 51's coming up. Who you got in the ball game?
I think Aaron Rodgers is gonna top the Falcons, and then in that second game, I think Tom Brady is gonna beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. I want the Steelers to win, but I think it's destined for Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady collision course. As Stephen A. Smith would say, the bad man Aaron Rodgers is gonna win it all.
You look like Stephen A. jumping at the camera right there. Hey. That's good stuff. All right, let's see who our producer chose to win. Heck yeah, let's go. All right. Last week, the San Diego Chargers announced they were moving to Los Angeles, and what followed is probably the worst PR disaster I've ever seen. First off, moving to LA is pretty foolish in my opinion. Los Angeles is obviously a huge city, but with the Chargers, it is now home to 2 teams in each of the 4 major professional sports. To go along with that, LA is a major fair weather town. To put it simply, if you aren't winning, the fans aren't showing. We saw that with the Rams this year after starting out the season with over 100,000 fans in the Coliseum, but by the end of the season, it looked like the stadium was about half empty. Now here comes the Chargers. Not only have they struggled for the last 5 years, but they have now abandoned a fan base in San Diego and moved to a place where they have practically zero history. It also doesn't help that they have adopted one of the worst logos I have ever seen. Oh wait, they already changed that. Nothing says franchise stability like changing your logo 3 times in 1 week. Who is the winner out of this entire situation? It's got to be the Cleveland Browns. For years, they've been the laughingstock of the NFL, but after this move, I think the Chargers are about ready to take their place in the spotlight. The Chargers are a joke, and that's the way it is.
Man, those LA teams keep getting LA keeps getting rewarded with teams, man.
They got good weather. They've got more teams than they need. It's an interesting place to be.
That's where I want to be. Well, we thank you guys for joining us for this episode of Cronkite Sports Live. Same place, same time, but a different set of anchors. For Braden Bell, I'm Chaz Frazier. See you guys next time.